Hey everybody, welcome back to the Puck Drops here. This has been a long time coming, this video. We have the 2020 trade deadline. And boy, oh boy, I'm going to be here for the next 30, 45 minutes. Boy, oh boy, do we have a big-time player. We know Danton Heinen used to play in the Stanley Cup. Well, he played in the Stanley Cup final last year. But Danton Heinen goes over to Anaheim, and they go and get Nick Ritchie. This is a player-for-player trade. It is not a trade involving picks or prospects. We've seen a few things. So Nick Ritchie, of course, goes there. Danton Heinen, I like this trade. There were rumors of it, but he does go to Edmonton. And he goes there specifically for, excuse me while I get it up, to play on the top line where he can go ahead and score a lot of goals with players like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl to stay on that line. As well as the Red Wings are trying to get younger and more defensive, as we know, of course. The Islanders, they haven't made it official, but let me actually explain some more of the Onto the CU trade. They also get a guy named Ryan Kuffner, who's an AHL player. But what the Detroit Red Wings end up gathering is Sam Gagner, a 2020 second-round pick, and a 2021 second-round pick. Detroit obviously trying to get younger, and they do that. Waiting, of course, to see how high they can prospects, how high picks they can achieve. Let's start with the New York Islanders. The New York Islanders are heavy in talks on a Zach Parise. We know that the general manager, the general manager of the New York Islanders is Lou Lamoriello. And I also talk about the fact that he drafted Zach Parise. Zach Parise is a winger, and they want high-scoring players, as well as they do need center depth. But that is a player that they are trying to get. The Pittsburgh Penguins, it just went final. The Pittsburgh Penguins have just received Evan Rodriguez from the Buffalo Sabres. So the Sabres, who were a buyer, because the Sabres went across and bought, ended up getting Wayne Simmons for a third-round pick, I believe, from the New Jersey Devils. Buffalo ends up gathering Evan Rodriguez to the Pittsburgh Penguins. So Pittsburgh gets deeper, Pittsburgh gets faster, and Pittsburgh might be the deepest team right now coming into the playoffs. I mean, wow. This is something big. Also, the Calgary Flames in Chicago have just made a big trade. Eric Gustafson to the Blackhawks for Derek Forbort and a conditional draft pick because of necessary cap space is taken by the LA Kings. Tyler Ennis also is in that Oilers trade. So he ends up going to the Red Wings. Excuse me, no. Tyler Ennis ends up going to the Oilers from the Red Wings, who end up having him. And the Red Wings get another fifth-round selection, which is big. But Ottawa was trading him. The pick goes to the Detroit Red Wings. Excuse me, I misinterpreted that because of cap issues that Ottawa has had. If any of you are watching this, since I now have 2 viewers, if you want to make any comments, ask my opinions on trades, or ask if they think a trade is going to happen, I would greatly appreciate that. I'll definitely be down for any discussion as we go down the wing of the next 25 minutes. So Simmons, yes, as I said, went to Buffalo for a 2021 fifth-round pick. The Pittsburgh Penguins ended up getting Patrick Marleau. So in one day, Pittsburgh Penguins acquire Patrick Marleau and Evan Rodriguez. What a day for Jimmy Rutherford, who has not traded a lot this year outside of the deadline as he usually does, but ended to do a lot of work. He said the Flyers got Derek Grant for Kyle Crasholo and a fourth-round pick. The Flyers trying to in-depth on their center forwards. Hold on, guys. So I just learned some rules for the channel, and I will definitely be able to talk to you guys. That was just a quick mistake that I made. But anyway, back to the stream. If you guys have any opinions on things, we only have one viewer back, but there's a lot of stuff obviously to talk about. Nate Thompson, right? He goes to Montreal for a 5th round selection, as was said. Of course, Vincent Trocheck, of course, the deal that you may or may not know. These are all deals, of course, that have been said and known about. We still look on some of these trades that are coming in, if there are any more. Still have about 20 minutes left in the trade deadline. Florida just made a trade with the Dallas Stars. Emil Juice, a defenseman from the Stars, and the Stars end up getting a 6th round selection. We have more information on the trade with the Sabres and the Penguins. The Sabres trade Connor Sherry back to the team that drafted him, and the Sabres end up selecting Dominic Cahoon, which, of course, is an interesting fit there. And just hold on a second. I will be right back. I just have to get something. I'm sorry. This has been a little crazy, but the trade deadline, of course, always is. So we of course will look at some more rumors that are coming in the deadline. Last you checked, as I am back here, Deuce was traded. Still nothing going on specifically right now. We have some more of the moves that are filtering through. I really think Kane might get traded soon, Evander Kane, but really nothing big, although the Trocheck deal was super surprising. 2 teams that weren't looking to trade one another again, but they did. Anyway, I will touch on the Dante Heinen deal that was made with Boston and Anaheim. I don't know how you guys feel on it. I think that's a good deal for the Ducks. Again, the second time the Ducks have made a deal with the Bruins. We saw it happen with Andre Kasha. We've seen now Dante Heinen, who there were rumors on Palmieri, who hasn't gone anywhere, to go to Carolina. I believe, speaking of deals that were rumored but have not happened, I don't believe that Parise has gone anywhere, but I will look to see if he is going to go to the Islanders. There were rumors on him to the New York Islanders. They're still working on it. And they also would like to extend Pajot. But there's nothing final, of course, to go into that. Again, any comments, any discussions with me would be absolutely great to have. So we will look at these deals as they come in. Of course, I would say personally that as a Devils fan, I think there needs to be somewhat of more prospect building as well as the Red Wings. But we'll see. We haven't seen too many prospects being traded in this year's deadline, which seems to be a point of contention. Either teams are just protecting their assets, either re-signing them, as we saw with the Kreider and the New York Rangers. Let's see if the Rangers end up going and getting a player. Obviously, is that something that may happen? They're clearly not sure. All right, so Joe Thornton, we just got to finalize, was thinking of going to the Dallas Stars to join Joe Pavelski there. We've just got finalized. He may leave the Sharks, but he's not going to play for the Stars. There's not any finalized deals, but we know that's not happening. Of course, there. But he'll probably leave at some point. I personally make a case for him to go to the Boston Bruins as a team that could contend at some point. As we're waiting for more deals to come in, I'm going to go through each deal backwards, and I'll tell you who I believe the winner is. I think there will have to be a winner for every trade, but I'll tell you if I think it's a slight winner or not a slight winner. Like a few of these, it seems both teams have won, but I think one team has to win at some. Well, you know what? Now that I think of it, I'll say if one team wins or both. The Bruins and the Ducks was never a huge Nick Ritchie guy, and I know he's very good at shooting the puck, and he seems to find it a lot when it comes to him. But I know his status has not been good, and his play of late has not been the greatest. But it has been okay. I am a Heinen fan, so I believe the Ducks definitely run that trade. I'm going to say hello to Tavaro, who's one of my friends who's been on this channel before. Obviously, he's watching. You can also find out some of the deals, but we will have them all for you here on the Puck Drops here. Making sure, just so you guys know, I also have a podcast. I might put the link in the description as well, possibly, if any of you want to watch that. So, obviously, there's some good deals going in there. But yes, I say the Anaheim Ducks win with getting a player like Danton Heinen to join them. Edmonton got Anthony and Kuffner for Gagne, a second round and 2 second-rounders. Edmonton wins that deal, of course, right now because they have the scoring forwards. But that's the type of trade that the Red Wings had to have made. It wasn't a trade where the Red Wings didn't – like they had to have made that trade. It was not something that was speculative. There are no new updates. It's still that Thornton is not going to the Stars. But the Oilers needed to clear cap space. They did trade Gagne. I don't like the Red Wings' perspective of taking Gagne in his contract, but I understand the idea for picks. Also, I want to make a point on another trade that had happened earlier last week. You may know about the trade with Andre Kasha and taking over the Anaheim Ducks, taking over the contract of David Backes. My belief is that David Backes will end up getting bought out, almost like Patrick Marleau did last season. I think he'll get bought out by the Anaheim Ducks, and he'll end up going to St. Louis back again for their playoff run to go and play with Pietrangelo and try to win a cup for him, as he did not last year. His heart and his soul is still very much in St. Louis. So that will obviously be looked at clearly there. Of course, I'll have the coverage also on here as I'm watching there, discussing Barry. Tyson Barry, of course, may leave. I think Barry fits well on a team like the Florida Panthers, and I'm never a huge Huberdeau guy, and I know that he's a scorer now that they traded Trocheck was necessary to keep him. But Vancouver Canucks, but also the Florida Panthers, Huberdeau for a Barrie trade, I would eat up. So we've got about 13 minutes until we hit the 3 o'clock Eastern hour. We still have nothing direct now. We'll go back to the trades. But yeah, I would see Barrie going to a team like Florida or a team like the Canucks. Buffalo, who's 66 points, are about, I believe, 8 points out of a wild card spot, end up buying, which is interesting because the team right behind them with the same amount of points, the Canadians are selling. Buffalo goes in and buys by taking Wayne Simmons, a gritty type forward, for a 5th-round pick in next year's draft for the Devils. So the Devils are clearly selling. The guy they end up signing in the offseason goes up to Western New York to play for the Sabres. The Penguins, they talked about Marleau, Pittsburgh acquiring Patrick Marleau for a 3rd-round pick next year. Winners. I forgot to talk about winners. The Devils really win that trade because we don't know what Simmons brings to the table, but you get a selection that they could use for another player or trade, of course. I really see the Sharks winning that as well because Marleau will probably come back later next season, and the Penguins don't know what they can get out of Patrick Marleau, who has not been a super consistent player. But obviously, we'll see what Patrick Marleau does bring to the table to the Pittsburgh Penguins, added now that Rodriguez and Sherry are Penguins again. And Sherry knows that organization. He's won a Stanley Cup, 2 Stanley Cups actually, in Pittsburgh. It will be very fun to watch the Penguins in the playoffs, and I think everyone wants to see Penguins Capitals, which is almost like an all-star game. Penguins Capitals in the playoffs would be like Avs Red Wings of the old days. It is that good, and it is that loaded. So the Flyers, who made 2 depth trades today, they got Nate Thompson for a 5th-round pick and Derek Grant for Kyle Crisciolo and a 4th-round pick, end up shoring the depth lines that they have for Philadelphia. There are no deals still then, but they are being warned by the NHL executive office that deals must be phoned in immediately before that hour of 3 o'clock. Palmieri, does he go? Does he not? That is the big question up in New Jersey. Obviously, I don't think he will leave. But that, of course, is up to something. Let's go ahead and discuss the Chris Kreider deal. So Chris Kreider, there was so much speculation. Was he going to be traded? Was he going to stay? How long was he going to stay? Would he be traded at the trade deadline? Would he be traded at the draft? And he, as a UFA, ends up staying a Ranger for almost his entire career. A 7-year extension, $6.5 million a season for Kreider. And personally, I don't agree with that deal. I don't believe with that deal. I think that's a little too much for the player that Chris Kreider is, at least now. Yes, he's a leader. Yes, he's a scorer. Yes, he can shoot the puck. But sometimes that's not what you're looking for. Well, Kreider does help the Rangers. It doesn't hurt them that they keep. But the Rangers actually had some speculation, some talks with the Carolina Hurricanes, Brady Shea trade. If they're going to do it, they're going to have to involve other NHL teams. I thought of a potential trade involving Teuvo Teravainen from the Hurricanes that helps the Rangers get faster. It helps the Rangers on offense. And, the Rangers, Carolina gets deeper on defense. They get it better defensively. They get an offensive defenseman. They have someone who can play well on the blue line. They've been looking for that all season long. The Hurricanes have. So it absolutely helps if they would make that trade. But Carolina doesn't have the cap space. And the Rangers aren't about to help them with that, being a division rival. So, it's something that just has to be stayed and waited on just patiently. Don't believe there's any other trades coming in yet. There hasn't been anything since the ML Juice trade with the Stars and the Panthers. You still stick to where we are in that spectrum, of course. As I get the trade chart up to look at. The Nate Thompson trade and the trade by Shore, I think the Flyers win. They probably won't make any other trades. I personally would go get a goaltender, but there is no other need for any other players, just shoring up the depth of Philadelphia. And the Carolina Hurricanes just made a huge deal for defense. It's not with the New York Rangers, it's with the Devils. Sami Vatanen is headed to Raleigh. So Vatanen's going to become a Hurricane. There is no news yet as the Devils trade their fourth player of this deadline. There's no news exactly what the Devils are going to be getting for Carolina, but the Hurricanes are going to go and get Sami Vatanen to help their defense down there. So the Shea deal probably will not happen now that they've found a trading partner with Tommy Fitzgerald and the New Jersey Devils. So they finally get Vatanen. Probably get a prospect and a pick. And if you want to get prospects, you want to trade with Tommy Dundon, because the prospect pool that Carolina has is one of the deepest in the National Hockey League. But this is off of Pierre LeBrun, too, and obviously, is there any better source than Pierre LeBrun? So it looks like Vatanen will be headed to the Canes, who he helps Carolina. He's very efficient. He can shoot the puck from the blue line. He plays defense the right way, knows how to forecheck, knows how to poke check, knows to play defense the right way. He's played the Stanley Cup Finals. The Stanley Cup playoffs multiple times as a Duck and also as a Devil. So if the Carolina Hurricanes are going to try to make a rush to the playoffs, which they have, they go and add Vincent Trocheck. They head around and take Sami Vatanen. It helps a rush to the playoffs. It helps a push to the playoffs for Carolina. This has not been finalized, but it's almost assuredly that Sami Vatanen will end up being a Carolina Hurricane. But this was a trade that the Hurricanes needed to make, and it was good that they made it, because maybe Vatanen has a rebirth, a Phoenix-type way of finding his new legs in Carolina. But yeah, it helps. It doesn't hurt anyone that Vatanen is able to come there with term and play. Maybe he plays alongside Jake Gardner, Slavin. He fits well in Carolina, and the Devils are definitely going to get a huge return for him. We've got about 4 minutes until the 3 o'clock window up in Toronto, up in the East Coast. So obviously that will be good, because at 3 o'clock we're going to hear a lot of trades coming in on what were phoned into Toronto at the last minute, I would assume. Right, and now we'll actually touch on that Florida trade that was the big one today. Obviously that was made with the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. And I initially thought Carolina won that trade, but to me, it's about the same. But really, Florida was able to get a lot. Florida, was able to get a lot from Vincent Trocheck. Go ahead and get Eric Holla, guy who's played in the Stanley Cup Final. He's a fast, speedy, young player still. You have Lucas Wallmark, who is a gritty type player. They get Eetu Luosterainen, who's one of the best players in the American Hockey League, and a defenseman in Chase Prisky, and they give up a big name in Vincent Trocheck, who hasn't played great this season. He still can play well. He can shoot the puck almost with anybody in the National Hockey League, but he's not a crazy type player. So it helps that the Florida Panthers were able to get that, and it's about an equal trade. The Carolina Hurricanes were able to get rid of some youth and put in a star who has offensive fireworks. He's a great team guy. He fits in that locker room really well. It'll be a lot of fun when these teams head out tomorrow to start playing their games, and Trocheck puts on the red and white Hurricane. Obviously, also Sammy Vatanen will be there too. Hurricanes are moving and shaking to try to get to the playoffs. They're going for it. They clearly are going for it, and it shows, and it's very confident of them from this trade. We got about 2 minutes now until this clock hits 3. Obviously, right now, nothing certain. It is been finalized. Carolina is getting Sammy Vatanen, but what the Devils are getting for Vatanen has not been finalized. What I am looking for is there are no giant trades with 3 teams, and big trade just came out. The Vegas Golden Knights have just acquired Robin Lehner from the Chicago Blackhawks. Big trade. Robin Lehner goes, so now you only have Corey Crawford, but the Golden Knights, with the moving and shaking, go to get another goaltender. They'll probably replace Malcolm Subban as a backup behind Marc-Andre Fleury. So Robin Lehner from Chicago goes to the Golden Knights. Vegas is another team trying to win the Pacific with Edmonton and Vancouver on their tails, just going for it. The teams in the West really is trying to make that final step, make that final push, but you have seen teams, just as Philadelphia has done in the East, teams that aren't going for it, like the Dallas Stars, because they used their offseason to push for that was their trade deadline, was the offseason. But Vegas is certainly going for it. So they're going to take Robin Lehner as a backup. Robin Lehner will be big for Vegas. This is almost like Hutchinson, where you went and got a goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now you finally get a goaltender to play behind Marc-Andre Fleury, someone you trust. They have not trusted Malcolm Subban. Did you go ahead and get Robin Lehner to shore up the pipes? And it is now, everyone, 3 o'clock. The trade deadline officially is closed, but the names will obviously start pouring out now of new trades that were phoned in and hadn't gotten announced. That's already 3:01. So Lehner gets traded to the Golden Knights right after the trade that was made with the Carolina Hurricanes and the New Jersey Devils with Vatanen. So now Lehner comes in as a goaltender to play with Fleury. Vegas looks set between the pipes. Not exactly sure what Chicago will do, though, now that Corey Crawford is their guy, and see if they will take anyone from the American Hockey League. What exactly is taken back goaltending-wise or American Hockey League-wise by the Chicago Blackhawks. So that will it was good that McPhee has made the moves that he has had to make to contend in our league. And he does so with Leonard, but I don't think Vegas is going to make any other moves. But obviously, the Leonard trade is a big one. It's big. We'll go back at the tracker as we wait as we look at how Leonard. That looks like Vegas is one that right now, but you should look at how Leonard will play, because if he's only a product of the system and he plays like he did with the Buffalo Sabres and the Chicago Blackhawks, he's not that much of an upgrade over Malcolm Subban. If he polishes in himself New York Islander hockey, then the Vegas Golden Knights are set in the regular season and in the playoffs. They won't need Leonard to play any games in the playoffs just to support the regular season. But if he has to, he would be ready to. Which would be the complete idea in Vegas to just start as a top guy. And Leonard, of course, there's nothing for Leonard. Nothing has been finalized for him. But we still wait for any other news. There might be other trades coming in. We are, yes, at the deadline. We have been for the last 3 minutes. But there may be a few trades that will be announced after Kane a few years ago was announced. So Leonard will have a bunch of chances to play at a high level for the Golden Knights. So let's take a look at the Pajot trade now that we're going, because the Islanders have already said that they would like to extend Pajot, which is huge. The organizational type smarts that were made by the Islanders, Lou Lamoriello, to go ahead and get a fast guy. And now Pajot has already said that he would like to sign an extension with the New York Islanders. Excuse me, I was reading off the list, to go ahead and play long term with them. They've really turned this organization around twofold. So nothing still yet. You still haven't got anything since Leonard. Any other trades coming in, but that is up for grabs, of course. See how that ends up turning around, if there are going to be any other trades. Right now, Leonard stands the last deal so far, but I really don't believe that that'll be the last one. And also, in the Vatanen trade and the Leonard trade, the assets have not been announced of what they will be for what they could be and how they would help the team in the future. As we look on that, of course, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it hasn't been finalized that those are the last trades. We'll move on to Nemestikov to the Avs for a 4th-round pick in Ottawa. Of course, Ottawa just wants to. Colorado wants to just get deeper, as deep as they can be, and boy, they've got a lot of depth. And that, of course, definitely helps the teams go ahead to try to build their franchise and build their team so that they have nothing still. There's still stuff up in the air. Obviously, a certain organization selling, certain organizations buying. There are sources are saying that Brady Shea may be headed to the Hurricanes. So they got Shea and Vatanen. There are some trades that are starting to roll in, that are starting to come around and benefit other teams. That is a source. That is a rumor. There is nothing final yet. I'm just checking to see if there are any other deals for. That's an Ottawa win in my opinion. Back to the Nemestikov trade. That there are starting to be a lot of rumor. It's a lot of rumor mill. Nothing final yet, but a lot of thoughts. But there are sources that Shea is a Hurricane. Nothing totally there yet. We'll try to figure out every source we can to find out where players will be headed before all of the calls are officially done and the 2020 NHL trade deadline will come to a close.
Penalty killer to me.
And we'll hold on with that. As I put that in. It's a lot of depth players get added, or a lot of players that were stars just to be depth. But that is not always the point. That a lot of players had not expected that to be depth, but they'll do what it takes to win a cup. They'll do what it takes, and that's what really makes this league, of course, the greatest. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to, of course. Nothing yet that's been finalized, but of course, the Rangers see if they buy up any depth because of the car accident between Shesterkin and Buchnevich. They have to make sure these people as human beings are healthy and that they're safe. And if that's okay, then you start looking at how these players will begin to react anyway. The Jets are looking at a possible trade for Dustin Byfuglien, but there's nothing there finalized yet. Nothing. Exactly, as you still look for more rumors, just anything. Oh, Sonny Milano ends up going for Devin Shore. That's a trade that just got finalized in. Sonny Milano leaves. I'm just trying to remember where Devin Shore was playing for. With those are the two. That's the trade from Anaheim. So Devin Shore goes to Columbus. that gritty speed game with the Blue Jackets. And Sonny Milano, another guy that is coming to the Ducks in the trade deadline. So Sonny Milano comes over to Anaheim to replace Devin Shore. Just at the outlook, of course, and the trade deadline. Just waiting to see if there'll be anyone else here on the deadline. It looks like there won't be anything else. But it looked like that was the Milano trade. I totally agree with that. It helps both teams a lot more. The Stars are able to stay gritty but also be fast. So obviously there still hasn't been any direct trades, but so the Devils are going to get a big prospect, and they'll get a pick. So the Sabres, of course, buyers and sellers, as we're talking about, Sherry was out, Rodriguez is out, Bogosian's in Tampa Bay. So that really is definitely going to that's going to be it. And maybe a few more trades going in. Nothing goaltending wise, but we'll absolutely see. I thank you guys for watching this. The puck drops here, of course. I'll be making more videos in coming days. There'll probably be one tonight, one maybe tomorrow. Live streams are probably not going to see. You're probably not going to see another video totally soon of a live stream, but I will say this: we'll see once we get closer to the playoffs. Definitely during the playoffs, the deadline, I forgot the word. When you talk about the draft lottery, and I see a bunch of videos of me doing live stream. We'll be uploading some other highlight vids. It's going to be good. We can't wait for the National Hockey League. It's going to be a fun season. And the trade deadline for this video is done. There may be a trade or two coming in, but I definitely enjoyed doing this. I hope all of you enjoyed watching it. This is Peter Fivefoot, and the puck drops here. Signing out.